Are you looking to join Cycling Men of Leisure for one of our rides in 2025? We've got a few things on our schedule.
That's right. We'll be attending Big Bragg and also the Bourbon Country Burn.
Big Bragg is in Georgia and Bourbon Country Burn's in Kentucky. Both places are going to be absolutely beautiful. We're going to have teams for both of those events. If you're looking to join us on our team, just send us a message. We'll tell you what to do.
So come on out. It's going to be a good time.
Absolutely.
Well, it's time for Road Adventures with Cycling Men of Leisure, the podcast for cyclists who understand that riding is not just about getting to the destination, but the experience along the way. Now, here are the original Cycling Men of Leisure, Adam and Michael.
Hey, good to be with you again.
Happy to be with you again, Adam.
Wow, whoa. Your voice still sounds like it's in celebration mode.
I didn't even know I was in celebration mode. It's my new cool old guy voice, apparently. I don't know what it is.
I saw you lifting your bike above your head after riding 540 miles. You were like, yeah, baby.
I wasn't cheering that much, but what's funny is I left you guys, got in my car, drove 6 hours, and as I was driving, my voice went kaput. And this is actually sounding better several days later. And it's still not where it needs to be, but you know what?
I mean, if you would have been driving to Eastern time, the pressure would be different. Your voice would sound I'm just kidding.
No, it wouldn't.
What are we talking about? What were we celebrating 540 miles?
I think this episode, we're going to talk kind of a wrap up, a review, our thoughts, our stories, because we got some good stories from RAGBRAI 50th anniversary.
And let me tell you what, the motto was one hell of a ride. It sure was. It was.
Yes, it was.
It was. I mean, when we interviewed Matt Phippen, the director of RAGBRAI, and he said this one was going to be epic. This one was going to be amazing. It was going to be 500 miles. Wow. With the weather that cannot be controlled, obviously, by RAGBRAI, but with the weather that we had, with the elevation that we had, and a combination of both, the scientific mix of those, I felt like I was melting on the tarmac. I don't know about you, but
I mentioned this the other night, and I will say it again. If this would have been our first ride together back in 2016, I don't know if we'd be sitting here talking right now.
That's true.
Because I think as a new rider, if this would be your first one, and I know we talked to a lot of riders out there, some, past riders, not necessarily thrilled, some new riders, not necessarily thrilled, but overall, a lot of them were. The biggest thing we heard from like new riders is just how difficult it was, which makes sense because when you unless you just have all sorts of time, you can't really train long distances multiple days in a row in
true.
Heat situation. So, it would have been tough, but like I said, we talked to some people that weren't thrilled, but overall, even the new people versus the experienced people, everybody was pretty happy.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was talking to my neighbor tonight, and he's a big supporter and listens to the show. And he said, "So, how was RAGBRAI?" And I said, I'm happy that we all made it home safe. As many ambulances we saw, and which let's just be honest. I mean, it goes in numbers. I mean, attendance increases, potential chance of things happening increase. So yeah. It's not any more than before, any less before. But I told them that I was thankful that, my friends and family, made it home safe. Our little team had one flat, which was me and the Air Force guys. I mean, I started unpacking my kit that I had built, with my CO2 and
that was funny.
Yeah,
that was funny.
I mean, I'll let you tell the story, but I'm getting ready, and here I am. And what happens?
And then the guys are right behind us. We just left a town. The Air Force guys hop off their bike. Hey, can we help out? And it's like, Adam's like, I've got all my stuff right here. And so he pulls out the tube, and those guys are taking the tire off and all this kind of stuff. And Adam's like, oh, here, let me get you the levers. And as he's reaching in and pulling them out, the Air Force guy just takes his thumbs and goes and just pops the tire right off of the rim. And you were like, I guess you don't need those. I'll stick them back in here.
And let me explain why that's important. I mean, unfortunately, a visual, I mean, you've seen my bike 100 times, but I have these deep, carbon tires that have high walls on them. And the reason why is usually when I put a 700 by 25 tire on it, even I think I'm somewhat strong, but just to stretch it up and over, I have to always use the last 2 inches. I got to use those levers. And when he just went boom, I was kind of like, wow, I'm impressed. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So, but we
the look on your face was hilarious because you like literally mid handing him the levers and he already had the tire off and you were kind of just like, well,
yeah,
what do I
know
now?
Because then the other gentleman, he goes, yeah, you got any CO2? And I'm like, yeah, I got that in the same bag, but if I get that out, you're gonna be done.
I'm just gonna
you're gonna be done before yeah, exactly. So, so we had one flat, which was me, and then our friend Joe had a pretty decent mechanical issue. He had a derailleur hanger jam up on him and snap as going up one of the first hills, and I mean, luckily for him, he played the bike part lottery, and I think it took 4 different vendors to kind of come together. And then our charter had the bike guy, and he put it together. So those were our only 2 bike issues throughout the week, except for my interesting rub that I had, which took us all week. I still don't think we figured.
Squeaking duck.
So. And I don't know what it was, because if you kept the crank on one side, it would go away. If you kept the crank on the other, it would come back. If it got really, really hot, which I'm very aware that the tires expand and the air expands when it's really, really hot, then it would go away, and then it would get colder, and then it would come back. And so I kept looking at all the rub points, pinch points. I don't know. I'm taking it to my local shop, and but you know what? 540 miles, made it home. I'm happy. So.
And I'm still having nightmares of the squeaky duck sound.
Listen, I could go out there and record it for you.
No, that's okay.
We have professional recording equipment. I can get you I've
heard it enough. I'm good. Really.
Okay. All right. Fine. Well, what I thought
I did want to come back to one thing you said. You were talking about busted hanger.
Yeah.
I met another gentleman who busted his hanger as well. And he had a really big problem finding one to match his bike.
Oh.
And I mean, there's a lot of mobile bike shops out there, and he was having a real problem. Finally, he found one, and he had to bring it over to the mechanic at our charter because our charter guy didn't have one.
Gotcha.
And the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, if you would have listened to our podcast,
that's right,
about having an extra hanger, this wouldn't have been a problem. I didn't say anything, of course, but if we would have been anywhere else other than RAGBRAI, he would have probably been out.
Yeah, he would have been. It's funny you say that because, 2 days, actually 3 days, I apologize. 3 days, you and I wore some sort of Cycling Men of Leisure jersey. We wore the custom brag ones one day, and then we were able to do laundry and wash the Road Adventures jerseys. And a couple guys came up to me and said, really enjoyed the show, loved your show on flying. I'm surprised that you didn't mention blank or you didn't mention this. And this is exactly what we're talking about. If we didn't mention something, please let us know. Yeah. We'd love to, and we could always revisit that show and we save all the information and save all the recordings. We could add on to that if there's other people who have opinions or ideas. I mean, we're not professionals. I mean,
we're not experts. We never claimed to be experts.
No, but it was cool to, people were like, the one guy came to me one day, he said, "Are you Adam?" And I thought, well, that's very interesting. And he said, "Oh, I listened to the show." He goes, "I know it's you because you're the one with the aero bars." And I thought to myself, well, we both have aero bars, but I actually am Adam. And that was really neat. I mean, everybody that we met along the way, was really cool. But, what I thought we would do is just kind of touch on a few things, going back to like the first day, for anyone who doesn't use a charter with RAGBRAI, you may not understand that the charter, if you're going to use their transportation across the state, on Friday night, they want you to turn your bikes in. So Friday night, Joe and I and you, I think maybe an hour behind us or something like that, dropped off our bikes, and then we had a hotel and we had a wonderful meal, and then we got on the bus. And on the bus, you and I got to meet some really interesting people from Seattle. And so
who knew who we were, which was always kind of weird. You're like 2 seats away from somebody who like immediately knows who you are. And it's like, I'm not wearing a name tag or anything, am I?
And the way it started is they were telling a story of a travel nightmare. So their names are Keith and Melanie, and they had traveled from Seattle and had flown into Chicago. Excuse me. And they landed and they had their bike, but no camping gear, no other luggage, nothing, because of an electrical outage or something like that their bags were behind. So they went to their local REI, bought all kinds of camping equipment, things that they would need for RAGBRAI. And then at the last minute, they ended up getting their bags and went and returned all the stuff. I'm sure the guy at REI was like, why did you buy all this? But so
the good thing about REI, they'll take it back.
That's right. That's right. You would know as you were.
I worked there many years ago.
So it was really nice because I think they saw your hat. And when they saw your hat, they said, do you guys know them? And we were like, depends. Depends if you like them or don't. And so they ended up saying that they had listened to the show on the way out there, or some of the shows, multiple shows on the way out there. And so I just thought that was a great story. And then it kind of made the bus ride a little more fun on the way there. Once we ended up in Sioux City, it was kind of really interesting to run into Juan. I mean, randomly we go to the expo. You were looking for extra water bottle holder based upon the heat, and everyone, concerned, and you thought, well, maybe I should just put an extra one on because, to be honest, you took one off to be able to hold the recording equipment, and so you said, well, maybe I can put one on the back of the bike, and then lo and behold, we ran into Juan, our old friend Juan. So that was kind of cool, just randomly up between
the odds
of
of those, tens of thousands of people running into that one person is astronomical. But it was good to see Juan.
Yeah, for sure.
In Georgia and Kentucky, and always a good time.
So the expo was kind of interesting. We actually, our charter took us to this park called Riverside Park, and the expo was multiple miles away, like 4 to 5 miles away. We saw it on the way to the camp. We had to take the shuttle, which was crazy. I mean, they did the best they could. They were city buses, and that was my first inclination of, wow, this is going to be a different year, because you and I have waited for shuttles year after year after year, but that line, I wasn't sure if what was up or down.
And I don't get it. Maybe it was because it was early, but for a group that stands in lines so much, RAGBRAI people, myself included, are the worst at creating lines. That line snaked around, and basically the end of the line, it turned into like 2 different circles, and the end of the line was inside of those 2 circles. It's like, wow. So we had.
I would have bet $1 million that people were going to like cut us off, but they didn't. They didn't. I mean,
but yet. It was interesting because when we got there, the name of the arena kind of set the stage for the whole week.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Long Lines Arena. and the funny part about that is if you don't know, if you registered and played by the rules, you received a packet, and you got a ride band and a participation booklet and like a luggage tag and all this stuff. And unfortunately, due to the high demand of the additional riders, they hadn't had a chance to ship everything out, which, okay, no big deal. But then they announced that please come to the Long Lines Arena to pick up your packet, which I just thought was just, can you imagine if you were RAGBRAI having to have everyone come to the Long Lines Arena? So
I'm going to have to look up that. I don't know what the name, I didn't look it up. I don't know what the idea is behind the name, but it's was ironic. Starting the week. Although I will say I probably stood in less long lines this week than I ever have any of the other RAGBRAIs I've been on.
It's funny you say that because that's what I was just telling my neighbor. I said, in prior years, there would be food trucks and vendors and, the local Boy Scouts or whatever, and you'd wait in line and go through the line. I mean, that one Taco Express truck or whatever, there was like one or two people in front of us. We didn't wait at all.
No, and it was really odd because you and I both were thinking, oh, we're going to have to wait these long, massive lines. And we would come into towns for lunch. And most of the time, now, if you had your heart set on maybe the grilled cheese, there was a considerable line there. But most of the time we were just able to walk up, one or two people, get in. Porta Johns, Kaibos, whatever you want to call them. Again, I didn't really stand in lines for any of them.
On behalf of Adam
and Michael,
we both want to say thank you
for your support.
Well, I wish this show wasn't a clean show because I saw the funniest thing online last night of what do you call this? And it was a picture of Porta John, and someone called it a Porta Itter. We'll just go with that. How about that? I just had never heard that before. I thought that was kind of funny. So,
my personal favorite was, what was it? The King's Throne. That was the name of the company.
Yeah, that's right.
So on the back of all the Porta Johns, it had King's Throne,
Well, it was you that had to tell me that each one had a serial number. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Every Porta John, at least for the companies that I'm aware of, have serial numbers on them. It makes sense to track it, but, I thought, maybe the next ride, we could, rate the Porta Johns by their serial numbers.
The one that freaked me out was in Des Moines when we were in that field and I wasn't expecting a light to come on. And so I, take the walk of shame and I go over there, wait in line, and I open the door and the light came on. I was kind of like startled. I was like, wow. I'm like, this is kind of fancy, except for you're doing your thing and then the light goes out. So then you're doing the wave of shame. But
well, I had a similar experience. The only problem is there was somebody in the Porta John when I opened the door and they had their flashlight. So
oops.
Yeah, like make sure you put that little lever down.
I love when someone draws on it. It says poop alone or poop with friends. If the lever is closed and you can't see poop with friends, so it's whatever. It's kind of interesting, but yeah.
Enough about Porta Johns.
Yeah, that's not my favorite part about doing those kind of rides where. That's nothing wrong with using a nice porcelain Toto restroom when I got home or whatever. So, anyways, I thought that Sioux City, that's the first time I had personally been to Sioux City of all these rides, unless the bus went through one year and I didn't notice it, but, it was kind of interesting, kind of neat just to start somewhere different. I had no issues with the camping that night. That was, a little bit the freeway behind you, but you're going to have that anywhere. So, and then, wow, once we started the next day, that was just,
that's when it hit.
Yeah. It was just so many bikes, so many people. When you come into towns, you'd have to walk, and then that railroad track, I'll never forget when you and I came up the hill and we kind of got off our bikes, and I thought maybe it was a safety issue. I really didn't know what it was, to be honest, not until we got quarter mile down the road. And when it turned to the right and you could look to your right and go, what's going on? And you could see like at 3:00 that people were still walking. That's when I kind of got the, oh my gosh. It was just a massive amount of people. And some of the photos that they've shown, it's just a sea of bikes and people. It's interesting to say the least. Although you and I spoke last night, you and I both agree that people dropped off throughout the week. So
yeah, you could definitely see a huge decline in ridership.
Yeah.
And I think that had a couple of things. Number one, the weather. As the week progressed, it got hotter and hotter. And I think, a lot of people just weren't conditioned for, 95-degree temperatures. And then the distance. I mean, we had several, there was 4 days that we did over 80 miles.
Yeah, the Century Day.
Miles.
Even if you didn't do the Century, it was still 83 miles. We chose to do the Century. And then there was an 82 and 92, 75, 70 something in the last day. I mean,
I think that really, and I think that gets back to my comment that I made earlier about training and conditioning. It's easy to get out on a weekend and maybe get 70 miles in, and maybe a couple times a week you get 20 or 30 miles in. But if you're a first-time rider on one of these events, you do not realize how much toll it takes on your body to do it 7 days in a row. Get up, get on your bike, ride it, So it's kind of completely different than what most people are expecting. And I also wonder, I know I talked to a couple of people that said, once we hit Des Moines, we're bailing. That was their plan all along. So I think a lot of factors, but definitely the numbers went down. And a lot of people you could see were getting sagged in a lot of days. I've never seen, in that one town, I saw 3 sag wagons in one town, and one of them was completely full. And that was pretty early in the day. So.
Yeah, that was the first time. I mean, for me, so my experience, I've shared with this show many times, my first experience of any kind of state long ride was the 2016 RAGBRAI. And I mean, I remember a couple bikes on the sag wagon, but not a lot. And then, throughout the years when you and I did, 18 and 21, 22, it wasn't until I went to Georgia last year where the MO was, I'm going to ride until I can't ride anymore, and I'm going to call the SAG. And I had never seen that before. I just felt like, bicycle ride across Georgia is you had no choice, and you parked on this side and you bust this side. You got to get, in my mindset, you got to get to the other side. Which that was the first time I saw that. And then I saw that again this year on RAGBRAI. Yeah. I was really surprised where I would even be at camp and, or in town and see some people we've met along the way of different adventures you and I have done. And they'd say, "Hey, did you ride yesterday?" And I thought to myself, did I have a choice? I mean, my bike was there. I had to get down here. And they looked at me straight in the face and said, "Oh no, we sagged yesterday. We weren't going to do those hills." And I was a little bit surprised at. To me, I guess there's a level of completion in my mind. And I want to say that, like I've said before, I mean, I help run a organization, and all my employees were supporting me, and I mean, checking the weather for me even when I was out there. And I don't know, I'd been a little bit embarrassed by like, oh, I rode days 1 and 5, but I skipped 6 and came back. I would have felt kind of like, like, I mean, if something happened to me medical wise or bike wise, and I had to, but otherwise I don't know, to me, I want to complete it. So,
but I think that has a lot to do with just people's, attitudes. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, using that term in a bad way, people's attitude towards riding. They want to go out there. They want to experience it. Maybe they're not as physically fit as they want to be. Maybe they're not used to the weather. So, I kind of look at it as, you're out there, you're trying, you got to set, you got to do what you got to do for yourself. So,
right.
It's not my thing. I'm going to ride and ride and ride until I drop. But I think there's a lot of other people that's like, you know what, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get as far as I can, give it my best, and then, get towed in and try it another day.
Sure. And again, it's everybody's ride for themselves and what they want to make it. I'm just giving an opinion from me, which is, sure. I would prefer to, the accomplishment of doing it. I mean, when I walked into work, all my employees who had watched me along the way, and I had a link to my computer the whole time, and they said, "Wow, good job, boss. Congratulations. You did it." And I said, "Yeah, I did." And they said, "You look tired." And I said, "This one, I'm exhausted." And this one really did. I will fully admit 110% that this year's RAGBRAI, I mean, it was a lot more. I mean, I looked at some of the posters from prior years that I've done, 420 miles. Some of the rides from prior ones, I've got my memory box, 60-mile days and 50 something mile days. And in those days, you were able to come back and take a shower and have camaraderie with, other people that you're camping with or do something in town. I mean, some of the days that you and I were riding 82 miles, 4,400 feet of climb, that's a long day. And then compile that with 99 degrees out there. By the time you get in, you're taking a shower, setting up camp, taking a shower, you're trying to get something to eat. And by the time you get back to the shuttle, that's pretty much bedtime. So it was cool to be there for the 50th anniversary. I mean, I love being part of it. I love always my adventures with you, but in my opinion, it seemed like there was just like riding, camp set up, scrounging for dinner, and then maybe a little camaraderie. Where other years we got to meet all kinds of people and stuff. So
yeah, we didn't get to sit around at night as much, and a lot of that had to do with us finding places to eat and that type of thing. And we didn't get a lot of time to sit around and enjoy some drinks and just chat with people a lot like we have in the past. But part of that also I think is on us, because we are the type of people that, generally we eat breakfast on the curb at a Casey's. We then eat lunch either underneath somebody's tree or on a curb or next to a storefront in one of the pass-through towns. So by the time we get to dinner, it would have been easier for us probably to go over to a food truck. But at that point in time, after we're cleaned up, we kind of want to go set in some air conditioning, have a meal that we're not sitting on a curb or under a tree and kind of relax a little bit. So, part of that's on the way that we do things.
And that's a perfect transition. I mean, when we went to Storm Lake, which, by the way, Storm Lake is the oasis in the middle of Iowa. When the sun went down over Storm Lake, that was gorgeous. I mean, if you could have closed my eyes and told me you were on the coast of Florida or something, it was beautiful. So, yeah,
I mean, I would love to live my summers in Storm Lake. Beautiful town, beach, lake, fantastic little resorty type community. Now, I don't want to live there during the wintertime because it's northern Iowa. But
oh yeah, but no, you don't even want to be in Central Time. Oh, wait a minute. Well, speaking of the resort, I mean, just like you mentioned, you said we like to get cleaned up and go have dinner. And we went and had dinner inside that resort. I mean, right on the lake. So they had a prefix menu, and that was nice. And
with the entire state trooper department of northern Iowa, I'm quite sure of it. There was 12 of them there.
Yeah, and then they got sippy cups for water. I'm thinking to myself, these guys have been out on the tarmac all day, on the cement, and when they asked for water, they gave them little,
double Dixie cup type thing.
I think you find 12 55-gallon barrels of water for those, but they helped us out all week. So, but that night was cool because we actually got to camp next to Jeff, and we met John, which was really cool. John, the one-man band, and had
always need more cowbell John.
Absolutely. I mean, he used cigar tubes to hold his drumsticks and had a cymbal, which, by the way, has our marking on it now. So
yes,
that's good. But so yeah, no, that was good. Storm Lake was really a really cool part for me. I really enjoyed Storm Lake. So, and Carol, I'm a little disappointed. We had interviewed Katie before, and we tried to meet her, and we did our due diligence. We got in town, we got cleaned up, and we rushed downtown, and they said, "Oh, she's out by the high school," and I think Katie was just really busy, but
really busy.
But what they did have there was an air-conditioned pizza ranch, and we got in that back room and enjoyed about 3 hours of slow eating and Wi-Fi and air conditioning. So,
thank you, Pizza Ranch.
And the other thing we went to that night is we went to their library, which was really neat. They had like a movie screen. The movie projector didn't lower the projector, but what they had was almost like a very large stair setting where you could like sit or lay down on. And it was so hot outside. And you and I and Joe just really enjoyed their beautiful air conditioning until they said, 5 minutes and the library's closing. And so we were like, no. So
kicked out of another library.
I know, but we thank them for allowing us in there as long as they did. Kind of helped get the heat gone. But even though the hot days, only one day do I remember being so hot that your fan was your only saving grace. I mean, I know we had a hotel a couple nights, don't get me wrong, but even on those nights I was watching the weather. It was cooler. So, but still it was fun. So when we left Carroll, we actually went to Glidden, which we did not get any paint.
We did not, but you want to know what's funny?
What's that?
That exact same day, my wife is sending me paint samples to paint the dining room.
Pedro was going to come paint your house?
I wish. But I just thought it's funny. I almost thought maybe she was like looking at our little radar thing and going, hey, they're in Glidden. And then
might as well get some paint samples.
Yeah, let's get some paint. And so that always worries me a little bit when the wife is like sending me paint samples when I'm out of town. I'm like, oh dear, what's going to happen when I get home?
Now, first of all, I'm sorry, but I have to say this. I hope that she's going to Sherwin-Williams to get paint samples.
Well, I hope so, because you and I both have a vested interest in the success of that company.
So. Well, that's why I'm saying it. I mean, I hope so. But when we got to Glidden, we got to talk to someone named Michelle Fay, and I thought if you're okay, we'll pipe that in now.
Let's listen to it.
So we are from Cycling Men of Leisure. We're curious. How do you feel about RAGBRAI coming through your town?
We're actually very excited about RAGBRAI coming through here. We don't get a lot of culture. We don't get a lot of extra people in our tiny little town. So everybody has banded up together and done their best to make sure that they have all the food, water, amenities, and everything that we could possibly get for you guys. This is a very exciting day for us.
So what is the population of Glidden, may I ask?
It's about 1,200 people.
1,200 so we are quadrupling
by the tens of thousands. This is probably the most people that have been in this town in 10 years.
So give us an idea of what kind of prep work does it take to get ready for something like this?
So Brooke Peterson, she is our city manager, and she is amazing. She has been planning for months and months and months, making sure everybody has all the permits, making sure all the food is safe. Everybody has been making signs and putting up tents and, everywhere from the bike shop to the porta potties, just making sure that everybody gets a safe ride this morning through our town.
Now, my question is, you guys went to a lot of work to put those flowers, the roses things on the streets. What's that all about?
My son made those stencils. He made the rose and the bicycle in his shop class. Nice. And so,
is that your town's logo, or
no, it's just something that it's something he made up and something he donated to RAGBRAI. He's 15, cool. And so Alex made the stencils, and they decided to just chalk them all over.
Well, they look great.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
And just so we can give you a plug on the show, your name is?
My name is Michelle Fay.
All right, Michelle, we really appreciate you. Thank you so very much.
We appreciate you guys. Have a great day. Be safe.
Thank you.
Make sure you get a Bloody Mary.
Well, we didn't have a Bloody Mary, but it was good to talk to Michelle there. So,
and we got to sign their wall.
That's right.
And they did offer to let us kiss their rock, which we're going to call it a Rooster Rock.
Yeah, let's leave it at that. For the
sake of the show, you can figure out what they might have called it. Rooster rhymes with rock, but
and to give you an idea, this was a rock shaped as something you could probably imagine. So,
yes.
Put that all together. Remember, this is we did check the box to be a clean show.
That's right. That's right. And I guess every town has to have their thing. So
sure,
we'll let them have it.
That's right. You know what? Also, we got to. Then we headed to Des Moines. Sorry, can't read my own notes here, but we headed to Des Moines, which was the hayfield from hell. Sorry, but my opinion.
Sorry, Des Moines.
Yeah. So they put us in this park called Waterworks Park, and our charter was all the way in the back. And when we got in at the end of the day, it was, 90 7 degrees, no shade. I mean, thankfully we bring shelter, and so you and I busted our tail to get the sun shelter up really quick. That was our only saving grace there. Otherwise, we would have been fried bacon. And then, what's interesting about that place is,
well, there's a couple of things interesting, but go ahead.
I was going to say, I was going to get ahead of myself. So we took their public transportation into downtown Des Moines. And for the first time ever, I've been to downtown Des Moines where it wasn't 0 degrees, which is great because the last 2 times I had been there had been so cold that I didn't think the furnace was going to work. And we went to
this time it was so hot. Yeah. See, you get one extreme or the other in Des Moines.
Yeah. Maybe I just don't need to go back for a while. So, but I did enjoy our restaurant choice, which was a place called Zombie Burger. That
was
neat.
Weird.
Yeah, just a little bit funky. Yeah, like all the menu items had a zombie-esque name to them, and so that was kind of interesting. But once again, it was air conditioned, and we got to sit there a while. And then when we got back, that mist fog just coming out of the ground.
It was really hot that day, and I don't know what was going on, but mist just started coming up. And just in this huge section, this mist is kind of just hanging around, and it was kind of surreal. And then they had these big spotlights on until like 11 o'clock to, just to provide safety and security, I'm guessing. But it looked really weird.
Maybe the zombie had followed us home from the zombie burger.
It was kind of like when I was walking to the Porta Johns and I was walking towards the mist. I mean, I was kind of thinking something could just come wandering out of there. And
like a Michael Jackson Thriller video.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was talking about.
And then for me, the cool thing is out of the blue, we got to see Walter in the morning as we were heading out. So that was
one of our Georgia, Kentucky friends. Yes.
That was cool. So, and then we saw him a couple other times after that on the route and stuff. He came up to us and said, "I'm not following you guys." I'm like, "Well, you should be because we're going the way of the route."
We're going the right way.
But no, I thought, I know that Leonard Skinner was there and we waited in line and listened to Leonard Skinner.
One of the cool things about Waterworks Park is that's where they have the statue.
Yeah.
To the founders of RAGBRAI.
That is neat. And it was so popular on our way in that we were like, oh, we'll get it later. And then as we were leaving in the morning, nobody was over there. And so it was perfect. We just snuck in, got a picture real quick, and then headed on out down the road. Well, so
the reason for that is everybody was leaving at 4:00 in the morning.
Hey, Adam, I need a Coke.
Sounds good. We'll be back after a quick break.
And that's something that you and I talked about yesterday, which was maybe some of those vendors didn't have lines because people had left so early.
I think that really did us justice in a lot of ways. There was a lot of people who wanted to leave early. One morning, I think at Tama Toledo, we were up at a little before 5, and there was pretty much a constant string of bikes already on the road headed out of town. And that was at like 5:00 in the morning. I heard people saying they were leaving at 4:30. The people camped next to us. Thank you, whoever you were, because you tore down your tents. I didn't even hear you. Your campsite was there. I got out of my tent the next morning. Your campsite was completely gone and you were nowhere to be seen. I mean, people were leaving early. So I think that did us a really good favor because it put a lot of people, it spread people out on the road, I think, a lot.
Yeah, that one guy in Des Moines who, I mean, literally, I'm not kidding you, I could reach out from my cot and I could touch his tent because everyone was so slam jammed in there. I mean, I woke up at 4:45 and I said, okay, my alarm went off and I hurry up and shut it off. Kind of want people to be like, shut your alarm off.
The theme song to Star Wars.
Well, of course.
We could have done without that.
Honestly. No. I mean, listen, as a Disney stock owner, I just want you to know that I support. Although, let's be honest, the Disney stock has been sinking, so we won't talk about that.
Let's continue with your story. Yeah.
So anyways, I turn my alarm off. I zip my tent, and I want to be real polite. And that guy is gone. I mean, he must have slowly broke down and so quiet. I never heard anything. So that was kind of interesting.
Of course, then there was the other 1,000 people in the campsite that were clinking and shining their lights everywhere. And
oh man, I was telling Lauren that I felt like I was getting arrested every morning because my
lights are shining.
Lights are shining. Some are red, some were blue, and they would flash back and forth and brought back horrible memories. But no, just kidding.
Sir,
but,
we're gonna have to have you step out of that tent, please.
Can you please step out of your tent cot now? But and I think people just lose like total understanding of like yeah, you want a light on your head, but maybe point it down or don't point it, and people are like looking around like, hey, what's over there?
Yeah,
like what's that noise? And so sometimes I wanted to just take it off their head and say, let me show you something. I'll put it on my head and be like, how would you like this? But of course, you're not going to change anybody, so I just shut my mouth. And
all part of the adventure.
That's right. But one of the stories that I thought we definitely should tell is we met Savannah in Georgia, and we met Tall Guy in Georgia, and in Tama, Toledo, we were kind of striking out there. We were on Restaurant Row. There were 2 Mexican restaurants, a Pizza Hut, and
Pizza Hut was all out.
Yeah, Pizza Hut was done. We were told that one of the Mexican restaurants was not good, and on a cycling trip where you're on your bike, anyone tells me a Mexican restaurant is not good, I am highly listening.
Probably should avoid it.
So then we saw this little white building, and it said Chinese restaurant, and Joe said, hey, well, let's go to the Chinese restaurant. At the moment, it just sounded, I mean, it was good. It was good. Don't get me wrong. But it sounded so good. I was like, you know what? Yeah, sweet and sour chicken, orange chicken, crab ragoon. We had done it in years past with Ernie and everybody, in 2016. I said, that sounds great. And we walk in the building, and the place is packed. I mean, it's packed. Every table is full, and I'm thinking, no way. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I spot Savannah and Tall Guy. And Joe had not had the pleasure of meeting anyone from Georgia, or if he did, he met Juan, but he didn't realize that who they were. And I just literally just went and sat down next to Savannah, and I said, you care if we sit here? And she's like, well, no, it's Cycling Men of Torture. I said, Cycling Men of Torture? No, what are you doing? And sure enough, there were 3 seats and three of us. Boom, we sat down. So making friends is always a wonderful thing, and we enjoyed dinner with those guys. So it was good to see Savannah and Tall Guy and Ed and Larry, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody there, but if I am, I apologize. But that was great to see those guys as well. You know who else we saw that day? Actually, we saw her on the first day, and then we saw her
Lacey,
yeah.
Lacey. Another one of our Georgia, Kentucky people.
Yes, that was kind of. Cool. That was weird on the first day on the tire dip. So if you happen to come upon the show and you don't realize what we're talking about when we say tire dip, tradition at RAGBRAI is you dip your rear tire in the Missouri and your front tire in the Mississippi, symbolizing that you had crossed the entire state. So we did the tire dip on day 1, and out of all the thousands of people, baggage truck lines and everything else, there was Lacey and them, right there next to us. So that was kind of interesting. And then we saw her later on as well. So,
but see, that is the advantage of cycling with you, Adam.
It's
no.
It's my hat.
It's your hat.
That's right.
You wear that de Brem. It's bright yellow. It can't be missed.
That's what I told Lauren. I said I can't ever change. I always have to wear that. So that's true. That helps out stick out. Which, truth be told, there was another day that we saw Savannah. We were pedaling kind of in the right side in the right lane, and she was coming on the left side, and she said, "Cycling Men of Leisure." She drove by. So that was neat. So,
yeah, we got to see a lot of, I was surprised that we saw so many people that we had ridden with past RAGBRAIs, that we had ridden with in Georgia, we had ridden with in Kentucky. Because honestly, I thought with the number of people there, it's like we're probably not going to see a whole lot of people. But
I never really did get a true number. I mean, I heard RAGBRAI announced that they had 29,000 registered riders. I didn't heard. I read that actually. And then there were bandit riders. For those of you who don't know, that's someone who didn't register, who just rode along. And I saw multiple people who didn't have bands on them riding next to me. So I assume there were a plentiful people who didn't register. But I don't know I don't know how many people. I will say on day one, coming into Ames and Des Moines, the one town, forgive me what it is, but where we ended up seeing Matt, Joe had offered us to go right through, and I said, no, I want to see the whole route. And sure enough, we ended up running in the ride director, so that was cool. But I forget what town name that was. I probably could look on my phone, whatever my phone said for GPS coordinates, but I just couldn't believe how long you had to walk getting into that town. And it was just solid.
I believe that was a town of the paint town. Glidden.
Okay.
I believe it was Glidden.
Well, I'm looking.
We did get an opportunity to get a couple minutes.
It was Slater.
Was it Slater?
Slater. So
I thought it was Glidden. Okay, my mistake.
Well, only because I have a picture of you and I and Matt and Joe in Slater Junction. So,
okay. Which, speaking of which, we did get some time with Matt. He was generous to give us a couple of minutes. We saw him several different places. He was definitely prevalent out on the route, and, putting out fires and stuff. We asked him if we could have a couple minutes, and he was like, sure. Why don't we listen in on his thing and, kind of see what he had to say? This was the middle of the week.
Perfect. So here we are with the director of RAGBRAI, Matt Fippen. When we interviewed you earlier in January, we said that we would normally see you on the route. This is our third time finding you on the route, which is kind of crazy. And all of these people, you're putting on one hell of a show. How do you think it's going?
Fantastic. I mean, I've never seen this many bikes on route in any RAGBRAI. And I've been around it for a while, as a kid and now as an adult, but it's a beautiful thing to see all the bikes rolling together.
That's awesome.
It's been great experience so far.
It really has. I mean, the different kinds of bikes, different things I just didn't think I would see out here. I mean, I've been to other RAGBRAIs, don't get me wrong. I've seen some stuff, but there's lots of different people, trandoms, quadruple trandoms, however you say that, I'm not even sure. But we just want to tell you thanks for running into us, and you put on a hell of a show. So
awesome. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, so that was cool. I mean, I'm glad that he was able to, spend some time with us. It was kind of interesting, actually. I asked him, I had the recorder in my hand, and I said, Matt, I know you're busy. And he was dealing with something in one of the parks there. I think somebody was trying to sell without a permit, in my opinion. I have no proof of that, just based upon what he was looking at and calling. And he said, yeah, I'll be right back. And just for a second, I thought he completely was like, all right, I'm gone. And so, because I kind of looked around the corner, and I'm like, he gone. And sure enough,
he came back.
He came back. Yeah, he came back, and we got the little sound bite there. So that was cool. But no, I mean, overall, am I glad I did RAGBRAI 50? Absolutely. I'm glad I was there. Another adventure with you, sir.
Absolutely. Great time.
And, you and I have both said, and I'll say it here, I don't see us going back to RAGBRAI for a little bit. We are going to try to do some other rides and add some more variety to this adventure of the show.
Yeah, we've done it the last 3 years. You've done a total of 5. I've done a total of 6. We were going down a lot of roads that we had seen before. It was a great experience. I'm glad we were there. But I think what I'm missing out on is there are so many other rides in the United States different, different landscape, different people and things like that. So yeah, I'm definitely with you. I think it's time that maybe we shelf RAGBRAI for a couple of years. Nothing against RAGBRAI or anything, but maybe go out and expand our horizons a little bit. So I think next year we need to look for something we haven't done.
I completely agree. And you and I have looked at spreadsheets before, and you compiled your own of different rides, and many rides are that same week as RAGBRAI. We've always, like Make-A-Wish in Michigan, the director of Trinity Health, invited me personally to do Make-A-Wish. And every year I haven't been able to do it because I've done RAGBRAI. It's the same week. So Make-A-Wish in Michigan is 300 miles. It's 3 centuries in a row. And you collect $1,200 for Make-A-Wish kids to be able to travel, and it goes from Traverse City to just over here behind my house. Well, not literally, but just down the road. And that's actually a beautiful ride. So even though they're 3 centuries, but it's well supported, massage tables, and I'm not kidding, for real. And you should see the sag wagons and the food and everything else. So very well supported. So there's some other things we've learned about Bike Ride Across Tennessee, and that's interesting. And North
Carolina, Nebraska, Kansas.
Yeah, the Kansas South one Dakota definitely interests me as well. I mean, I'm always interested in the Kansas one because of you and your family. Even though it's Central Time, I'm willing to be behind for a week. So, oh my God. Or early. I'll be early, actually. Just kidding.
So I think what we need to do is, maybe in a 3 months or so, we need to kind of like reach out to our listeners and say, give us some ideas of where you think we should go riding.
Thought you were going to say, reach out and touch faith.
No
Depeche Mode. Okay.
No Depeche Mode.
All right, fine.
That would be kind of fun. Get other people's ideas. I mean, I know I've got mine, you've got yours. See what other people think.
No, for sure. For sure. I mean, it's the fun part about what we're doing here on the podcast. I'm not sure about you. I don't want to speak for you, but I'll speak for myself. And the way you and I ride is, if one of us gets ahead of each other, then we slow down for each other, because it's such a crazy festivities that, we don't always ride right next to each other all 540 miles. Sometimes you might even get way ahead if you're feeling it. And then I'll get to, like, a couple times you pulled over on some hills and stuff where I was like, I'll get there. I'm like a turtle. I'll just keep going. And then sometimes I would feel like $1,000,000 and I would go, and then I'd slow down. And so the point is we won't always ride together. And so the times that I was by myself, people would come up to me and say, hey, love your podcast, love your show, love the podcast. And that just made me think to myself, you know what? We need to do other things than the same things every time. So, love the friends we've met along the way, and hope to meet new friends. So, who else we ran into?
Hey, Michael, I need a coffee.
Okay, we'll be back right after this message.
We ran into a lot of people, so I'm not even going to try to guess.
We ran into the non-official mayor of RAGBRAI.
Oh, that's right, Sue.
That's right, Sue, who yes. Educated me and gave me I would say a 5-mile education on e-bikes and the different classifications of class 1, 2, and 3. But let's share her Mayor of RAGBRAI story. She gave us permission, by the way, to tell this story. So Sue has a job where posting things on Facebook and this nature, the concern would be of her employees seeing her personal life. Sure. And so she's just trying to be somewhat secretive, but her friends who love and care for her decided to go on her personal Facebook page. I don't know if you use the word friends after this story, but just kidding, of course. But they took one of the photographs from her personal Facebook page and they made an entire jersey, and it said, "Vote for Sue." And so they all got these jerseys. And when they came into town one day, the guy said, well, what did we vote on you for? And then she said, I don't know. And he said, well, what are you running for? And she said, I don't know. And someone said, Mayor of RAGBRAI. So that's how Sue became the mayor of RAGBRAI, which was wonderful to meet her. And she was on an e-bike. And honestly, I had no education on an e-bike. And so
I have to agree with you. I thought an e-bike was an e-bike, but you found out differently.
I sure did. Here we were rolling across the beautiful state of Iowa, and she said, no, this is a class 1 e-bike. And you and I have always taken the stance that if an e-bike prolongs a cyclist's life to be able to be out there longer, absolutely 110% support.
Yes.
Now, I'm not going to lie. On some of those hills that we were grinding out on the day that was 4,400 feet of climb, and I'm on the right side, and I'm grinding it out. I'm going to get to the top of this hill, and here was Maggie or Margaret or whoever, just with a big smile on her face, going up the hill. Hi, how you doing? I may have wanted to strangle her.
It is hard. It is hard not to be a little bit like, have that little bit of anger build up. It's like you're huffing, you're puffing, it's hot, and they just come zipping right up the thing. I totally get it, and I shouldn't be upset or anything, but I'm just like, man, because let me tell you, there's a couple hills that I was like, where's that button at? I need the button. And
I could have taken the button, but I am no expert. I'm actually would be an extreme novice, but let me just tell you what Sue told me about e-bikes. She said that class one is essentially a pedal assist, meaning you do not get any assist unless you are pedaling, and it's about a 20-mile-an-hour maximum speed. So you have to be pedaling, and then you get a little bit of assist on the hills, and you can dial that up and down. Do you want to pedal harder? You can dial it down so you can feel the bike more. If you need a little more help, if like Sue's case, she had knee surgery, and so she was a little bit concerned about RAGBRAI, wanted to complete the 50th anniversary, and so that's why she decided to do an e-bike. Then she told me there was class 2, and class 2 is essentially that you don't have to pedal, that you can actually just push a button, and it is a maximum of 20 miles an hour. Your battery is prolonged if you pedal, but still those two are class 1 and 2 is essentially a cycling assist. You're still having to pedal. And then she told me about class 3, and after she told me about class 3, I got to tell you, in my opinion, I think that they should not be allowed on RAGBRAI. It's essentially a moped. It's 28 miles an hour. You don't have to pedal at all. You could just push a button and away you go. And so that seems to me that could be highly dangerous. If everybody else is climbing a hill at 9 miles an hour and then one person, 9, 10, 15, depending on 20, depending on your personal, skill. My skill would be like 2 sometimes on some of those hills, but downhill I go fast. But once I learned that there was class 1, 2, and 3, and I'm not sure how you feel, but my opinion is class 3 should just absolutely not be allowed in any event that is not like your own deal or whatever.
Well, the 2 things. Number 1, you didn't talk about class 4, which is basically Harley.
Or hardly. No, just kidding.
Just bring your motorcycle. That's a class 4 and we'll call it good.
That's right.
No, but as I understand it, officially RAGBRAI does not allow class 3 e-bikes.
That's what Sue told us.
In the thing, because you're right. Essentially, that's basically a moped from the 1980s. Remember those that had the pedals on them? Yeah. That's basically what that is.
But I was interesting to learn the difference between class 1 and 2, and I'm not blind. I pay attention to social media. I mean, we run a podcast. We share our show on social media. I saw people just slamming people for e-bikes, and I don't take that stance. I take the stance that if, like Sue, if she had knee surgery and just a little bit of assist helps her, and she can still get out and ride. And how she showed me it dialed down, and she has to work harder, and battery life lasts longer the more you pedal it and not ask for the assist. So there were some long days out there. So really cool to get a little bit of a novice entry level to e-bikes. I honestly had no clue. And
we met the unofficial mayor of RAGBRAI, which in itself was pretty cool. I will comment on all the stuff that I saw on social media about e-bikes. I think people are, get a little crazy about it. But yeah, if you have health or knee problems and you're a cyclist, you want to be out there, I have no problem with that. Now, sure, it annoys me a little bit when they're just tootling up the hills and I'm huffing and puffing, but that's just the way it is. I'm happy to be huffing and puffing because my knees still work and everything's in good shape so far. I think the one that really, really annoys me is when I see like the 25-year-old guy, and maybe I don't know his story. Maybe there is something that he needs it, but I find it hard to believe with as many young people as I saw on those bikes that there's that many young people who have problems biking that wouldn't be able to get on a regular bike and do it.
And I know where you're coming from because I saw the same thing. I mean, like you said, like the 25-year-old. The problem is it's hard not to know the backstory.
Oh yeah.
But then what you see is they come into town, they set the e-bike down, then they run to their friends on the other side of the vendor row. So it's kind of hard. I'm like, what? I'm honestly like, that's when I go to Disney and I see people who rent the carts, the whatever carts. I think the same thing sometimes. I watch you pedal that car or drive that cart all the way around Epcot. But then when it's time to go in, you get off and you run in, you come back out. And are some people needing it? Absolutely. I just think people sometimes just take advantage of like, I don't want to walk. I'm going to get myself a motorized cart, scooter, whatever. So,
but ultimately it boils down to you want the experience. It really shouldn't matter if you're on an e-bike, unicycle, you're walking, you're on a regular bike or whatever. The point is you're out there, you're enjoying it, you're on the adventure, and really nobody else's business, kind of what type of bicycle you're on or how you're getting around. The fact is you're out there to enjoy yourself, and we should just all respect that, myself included.
No, I completely agree. I mean, if you want to be out in 97 degrees and 4,400 feet of elevation and almost be melting like a piece of candy in the backseat of the car in the 80s, join us. Come on out.
Absolutely.
There's room for everybody. So it was great to meet the mayor of RAGBRAI.
Awesome. One thing I did want to do is I wanted to acknowledge a couple of people.
Sure.
And then do some shout outs.
Okay.
Number one, I wanted to acknowledge the Air Force cycling team.
Absolutely.
Those men and women are animals. Let me tell you, they're out there every day helping people, smiles on their faces, might be 95 degrees and they've ridden, 70, 80 miles. Boy, let me tell you, they'll just hop off their bike. How can I help you? And immediately go about doing it. And they've, done that every year that I've been doing RAGBRAI, and just fantastic group of people, great mission that they have. And I mean, that really is awesome, especially if, you're not good at changing flat tires and things like that. They're always there to back you up. So I definitely wanted to kind of give a salute to those men and women and that cycling team and their mission, because I think they're awesome.
And not only that, but please remember, I know you know this, but just want the listeners to know that those men and women actually provide the tubes themselves. I mean, they actually help bring some stuff to the table with their own money. And so, of course, they're trying to collect money at the same time to do it, but many times they're just doing it out of the goodness of their heart. And so, just to give you a play-by-play, you could be on the side of the road. You got 2 to 3 Air Force guys with jerseys on that say USAF, or depending on which version they had, boom, they're right there on you. They're helping you. What can we help you with? You okay? What's going on? And I appreciate you mentioning those. Appreciate you doing that.
Yeah. And the other group that I don't think gets recognized hardly at all is the law enforcement people. at the state level, at the county level, and at the local level. They're standing out there in the heat, directing traffic, full on uniforms. So, I mean, their service is invaluable in keeping us safe. So we definitely appreciate them. And also, like the EMTs, paramedics, those type of people, they're working their tails off, as well as like the local town, hospital healthcare employees. Because I know at Storm Lake, one of the nurses from the hospital came around and said, was just checking on people, asked us if we were all hydrated and having any problems. We were fine. And she said, if you run into anybody, make sure you're not sending them down to the hospital. They actually had to open up
full,
completely full from just like the people with dehydration. About a block away, they had opened up another building and was just, helping people from that facility because their hospital was completely full. So
let me tap onto that for a second.
Incredible.
So that night when she came up to our camp, you and I had just fired up a cigar. And she said, "Excuse me, gentlemen." And I thought just for a second, here I am going to be yelled at in a public park for smoking a cigar or something. And she said, "Excuse me, gentlemen." And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "Is anyone in your group hydrated?" And of course, what you just said, she was like, "Because we're doing IVs for, hydration up there, blah, blah, blah." And here I am the whole time with a cigar in my hand. This poor nurse is there. I got it like almost behind my back, like it's contraband. So
feel like you're in high school and you're getting busted for something.
Exactly.
I slid it behind me. It's like,
but it was kind of funny. So I just wanted to share that. So,
yeah. So, I mean, those are some groups that, really made this event safe.
Yeah.
It made it better. So I appreciate all their effort, as I'm sure you do too.
No, for sure. I appreciate you mentioning those. And, every time I went by one of the officers, man, woman, whatever, I always said, thank you. If I could get it out without, concentrating, I would just say, thank you, for your service. Thank you for being out here and helping us. So.
Now there's a few other shout outs, people that we haven't mentioned that I did want to mention.
All right, I'm in.
Margaret, one of our favorite cyclists from Georgia.
That's true.
She was there. Awesome. Who else? Steven and Scott.
Yep.
2 members of our brag team.
And Mark.
That we did not get to see, but we know they were there and wanted to shout out to them.
Steven, I talked to him on my way home. He true story. He accidentally called me, and I was concerned because it was like 10 o'clock at night. We were almost back home, and I said, "Steven, I just want to make sure you're okay." This is on the last day heading home, and he said, "Oh yeah." He said, "I dialed you by accident. I'm sorry, Adam." I said, "No problem." And I said, just small talk. I said, "Well, how was your ride?" He said, "Well, great. I wore the Cycling Men of Jersey twice, leisure jersey twice." All right, Steven, I love you, buddy. Thank you so much. So that was awesome. And so, yeah, I know Mark and Scott were there. I saw lots of pictures from Mark, and Scott said he's just a little delayed on his postings, but sounds like it went well for him as well. So
the final 2 people I wanted to shout out was the Norwegian couple.
Oh, for sure. Norwegian travelers. So
yes, they flew in from Norway.
Yes.
To ride RAGBRAI on a tandem bike, and it was like an all-white tandem bike. Every day they wore Norway jerseys and had like a Norwegian flag on the back.
And passing out koozies.
Yes. And we had ran into them at Pizza Ranch. Didn't really talk to them. They were in the table behind us because we were all too busy, shoving food in our face. But then when we were standing in line to take a shuttle bus back, probably 30 minutes, we got in a long discussion and really enjoyed speaking with them. So I hope they made it back to Norway in good shape.
I do too, especially when I said, whose idea was this? And she didn't answer, but she looked right at him and he goes, "Well, it was more my idea." But it's all right.
They seem to be having a good time. So,
yeah, they did. They did. And they were going a heck of a lot faster than I was going. So
they were cruising.
So that's all right, but it's not a race, right? So
that's right.
Well,
so that's all I got there. I just wanted to give some shout outs to those people.
And I'm scanning my notes here, and I think we I mean, if I missed somebody, I'm sorry. I know we saw lots of people. We saw a lot of our brag friends. Some I am guilty. I don't even know by name. I hate to say that, but they would come up and say, "Weren't you on brag?" And I'm like, "I was on brag." So that was cool. So, but overall, I'm glad I went. I'm also glad I'm sitting in my air conditioned house right now. But no, it was another great adventure with you, sir. So
absolutely happy to have done it. Looking forward to whatever the next adventure might be.
Bourbon Country Burn, baby.
Indeed. That'll be fun.
And then, I mean, I'm sure you'll be doing some training between now and then. So
yeah, of course. Why would you even say that? I don't understand.
Well, okay. Have you taken the clothes off of the Peloton?
Yeah, there's no clothes currently on it.
Good.
Yeah. As far as I know.
No, it was good time. So I'm glad we went. Glad we're home with 10 fingers and toes and everything else. So,
the last thing that we can kind of end with is we did record when we finally made it to the end. And
we did
at the thing. So I think we should play that, and then we'll end this episode.
Sounds great. Let me put that in here right now. Well, boys, here we are at the end. We did it again.
That's right.
RAGBRAI 50 in the books, 540-ish miles. I think I might have walked up 0.0, unlike Georgia, where I walked.
Yeah, well, it was rough. It was really rough. A lot of distance, a lot of heat, but we tire dipped, and now we're done.
Joe, what do you think?
It was totally awesome.
Would you do it again?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. That's a word we can actually use in the podcast. That's a clean word, so that's good. We had no rain, except for last night. Everybody in Coralville unfortunately had a storm. We had this brainiac idea to get a hotel, so we actually had 800 thread count sheets, filtered water, air conditioning.
And no waiting for the bathroom.
Well, I didn't have to wait. I don't know if you guys had to wait. I'm sorry if you did, but we had breakfast, beautiful waffles as you would expect in a hotel. We had one mechanical issue. We had a blowout on a shoe, and I had a flat. What about you? Anything else that I can remember?
No. The important thing is we had no medicals.
And there were lots of those.
Yeah. So it was
ambulances this year.
A lot of them, yeah. And a lot of people stepping out and things like that. But all in all, we made it. We're here back in Davenport. So
RAGBRAI 50, Sioux City to Davenport. All three of us chose the optional Century Day to get the patch, which gave us additional miles. I believe, doing some mathematics, arithmetic, carrying the 1, minusing the 2, 540 miles, I think.
So, yeah, that should be about right.
So, perfect. Well, gentlemen, I'm happy to share this experience with you.
It's been fun. It's been fun. Again.
Loved every minute.
I'm going to say something. This is definitely not leisure, by the way. But
this year was not leisure.
No. 92 miles, 72 miles, 82 miles.
103.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, but good time. So, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right.
Woo!
Well, we were excited, obviously, to be done. So, glad we were able to get that recorded. But as we did for the last 7 days, what is today?
It's a great day for a bike ride.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming along with Adam and Michael on Road Adventures with Cycling Men of Leisure. If you have enjoyed this, please subscribe to the show on the podcast app of your choice.
Hey, we just wanted to remind you that we've got some really cool products at our jersey and our swag store.
That's right. You can visit cyclingmenofleisure.com. At the top of the page, you'll find our stores page. Click there. There's 2 QR codes. The one on the left has a J on it. That's the store for the jerseys. The one on the right is just a swag store. Has all kinds of different items. Kind of customizable. You can kind of make the swag the way you want it. If the QR codes are giving you an issue, don't worry. Underneath, there's 2 buttons that you can click on. Thank you, and have a great day.